All right, this next question, I wanted to have it by itself. What do I think of other philosophers? What do I think of this philosopher or that philosopher? What philosophers have I read, and that sort of thing. I might make a list, but I probably won't. A lot of the philosophers have ideas that are outdated, so I mean, it doesn't matter too much who I cite. Most of it's outdated, or they're not. It's not relevant in many cases. But anyway, the way I think of philosophers can be summed up in a phrase that they use these days. They use the phrase, let's see, tell me your blah 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 without telling me your blah blah blah. I can usually describe a philosopher in that way. Okay? So let's say if we pick someone like Jordan Peterson. What's my opinion of Jordan Peterson? How do I describe him? And I would say, tell me that you're controlled by your emotions without telling me you're controlled by your emotions. That's Jordan Peterson. Nietzsche. Tell me you're talking about insane people without telling me you're talking about insane people. And that sort of thing. Okay? That's how I describe philosophers. It's a pretty good way to describe philosophers. And what I'll do is I'll make a list, I suppose, right? Make a list of different philosophers. Right now, who am I listening to right now? Let's see. I don't know, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Godwin is the last name. I can't seem to remember his first name. William Godwin. Okay, that's the one I'm listening to right now. If I read, if you've listened to my channel or if you've been watching me before, you know that reading for me is an uphill battle. I'll start really good, but then as I continue reading, it gets more and more difficult. So I cannot read longer than an hour a day, or not even, maybe 30 minutes. But I can listen to a book for 6 hours straight. As long as I'm doing stuff, you know, I can be listening to a book. I can finish it much faster. And yes, I can finish it even faster by listening to it than reading it. I actually read slower than I can hear at the normal speaking voice. And yeah, I can speed it up and do double speed. But if I miss a word, I hate it. I need to go, I have to listen to it slowly. And sometimes rewind it and listen to it, rewind it. I've listened to things over and over and over again, up to 10 times or more, to get it set in my brain. It's easier to read it and do that, but then I get tired. I don't know what it is, but just physically reading, I get too tired. All right. Anyway, what are some of my favorite philosophers that I've taken a lot of things from? Karl Popper, Nathaniel Branden, top of my list. Thomas Sowell. I'm listening to William Godwin right now. I think it's William. Hayek. I don't know why I can't remember their first names right now. Ayn Rand, although I prefer Nathaniel Branden over Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand is polemic. Tell me you're polemic without telling me you're polemic. That's Ayn Rand. Let's see. There's a bunch of others. And there's something, if you can't remember names, that means there's something in your personality that prevents it. And I don't know what that is either. Maybe I'm not people-oriented. I'm thing-oriented, right? I don't know what that means. So, let's see. What other philosopher can I describe by using that phrase? Tell me you're blah, blah, blah without telling me you're blah, blah, blah. Karl Marx. Let's see. That's a big one, right? I read his stuff. I read a lot of his stuff. Let's see. Tell me you're a cult founder without telling me you're a cult founder. Okay, it's a cult. He founded a cult, but he didn't say that. Yeah. Then there's Heidegger, and then there's so many. Kant. Kant is tell me you're intellectually dishonest without telling me you're intellectually dishonest. He's not intellectually honest. When I read his stuff, he's conning us. Yeah. It's a con. It's a very clever con. It'll suck you in, it'll get you thinking, but it's a clever con. I don't even think he believed in what he believed in, or what he was saying. It's contrived. The language that he produces is contrived. It doesn't need to be that complicated, but it is. And he did it on purpose, and he probably knew all this. Yeah. But there's several philosophers that are both mathematicians and philosophers, or physicists and that kind of thing. Let's see, who else? I think Carl Jung is a philosopher as well as a psychoanalyst or whatever. Mark Twain, to a certain extent. Who do I like? I do like Carl Jung's ideas. I do like reading Mark Twain. I don't like Kant, except for certain aspects. Certain aspects of Kant's philosophy are interesting. Hume, certain aspects of his are interesting. Those two clash, right? Obviously, Kant and Hume are clashing, but they're interesting stuff on both sides there. What is interesting about Hume? The first thing that comes to mind about Hume that's interesting is the statement that all the supporting evidence in the world doesn't make something true. Just because you have supporting evidence, it doesn't make it true. That's one idea from Hume, which is good. I picked that up. Yeah, there's also religious philosophers. I'm not going to get into those. Let's see. I think that's it. This is just an introductory. Again, all these, like today and this week, are going to be introductory, trying to get myself in the frame of mind to do these videos. I'll get into it more later. All right.